teaser, and then we'll pause, and then we'll get started. Okay. The arts and equestrian culture, very much a part of life in the home of American golf. We have somebody on Paradise in the Pines that has married both concepts. It's Larissa Ann Art, as she's known, next on Paradise in the Pines. Welcome to Paradise in the Pines, a podcast about the people, places, and stories that make this the home of American golf. Brought to you by the Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And welcome to Paradise in the Pines, Larissa Ann Ray, otherwise known as the Larissa Ann Art, as we know you by in your artistic world. Welcome to Paradise in the Pines.
Thanks so much, Phil. I'm happy to be here.
We know you very well with the Painted Ponies program, which has been going on, I think, 5 years now in downtown Southern Pines. It goes through like the end of February into April, and it benefits the Carolina Horse Park and all the great work that they do there. Yeah. You had a chance to meet the executive director there, Brian Rosenberg, back in 2021 when you first found out about Painted Ponies. Talk about that encounter with Brian and how it led you to be part of that program.
That's right. Yeah, I actually met Brian a little bit before that because the first year they ran it, I was not one of the artists, but I loved the project. And just by happenstance, happened to visit Brian at his farm where he was having a riding lesson and connected over the gardens and horses and all of that stuff. So when they had the project the following year, I was pretty adamant that I really wanted to do one of these horses.
Yeah.
So reached out to him and was really lucky to have Mavis contracting company had built my home. So he sponsored the pony and I ended up painting it in collaboration with him, Seth Mavis, and his wife Amber was how I got started. And basically how it works each year with the Painted Ponies program, Carolina Horse Park kind of marries organizations throughout the area with local artists, it's a phenomenal program. I wish we had them around year round because they're so cool to look at. They're gorgeous.
And it seems like just when they post them or mount them all over town, they're gone and they're auctioned off. You did one for us a couple years ago. In fact, because most of these are in downtown Southern Pines, we were interested in progressing down Broad Street. And we asked the owners at Red's Corner at that time, could you put one at Red's Corner, which they did. And it was a phenomenal. We're looking at it right now, this amazing painted pony that you did. Talk about the concept and the inspiration behind that one.
Yeah, so we titled this one Where Liberty Dwells because we are just outside of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And Red's Corners has just been a hotspot for equestrians for years and years. It was actually named after an old gas station that existed in that spot. So this particular horse had a theme of all local flora and fauna, but also the horses and the foxhounds and a fox, because we have one of the oldest hunts in North Carolina and in the country here, just in Southern Pines, a mile-away farm. So the pony's theme was pretty much all things local. And then I always include one of these gold stars on the forces' heads, just in recognition of the families who have lost a service member overseas or during their time in the military. And then I think one that a lot of people remember was Sergeant Reckless. We've got a photo of that as well. And tremendous horse. I remember when that first came out, we were like, this is by far the best one. Obviously, an amazing, very inspirational. Talk about this particular work of art. Yeah, thank you. I was actually, I had just gotten back from Iraq when I painted this horse, and it was in my brand new house that Seth had just finished building for me. So very critical transitional time in my life between things. So patriotic theme, Seth Mavis is a veteran himself. He and his wife Amber were so generous to sponsor this horse. And they wanted to do a patriotic theme, which I was obviously very on board with. So we have the stars and the stripes, but we also have 22 poppies for the 22 veterans who commit suicide every day, just kind of honoring the community there and supporting people who might be going through a tough time. And then on the forehead, you can't quite see in the photo, but again, that gold star for families who have lost someone. And they auction these off, as I said, for Carolina Horse Park. And what's interesting is I know Dan, who's behind the camera here, our destination storyteller, he did one during COVID. We couldn't go out and shoot a lot of video. So Dan, being an artist, Savannah College of Art and Design, actually painted one of these. And I said, can you do a home American golf theme? So it had Donald Ross, Peggy Kirk Bell. That's right. Payne Stewart was on that. And once they get auctioned off, he asked me one time, where is it? I mean, who, do you, when yours were auctioned off, do you know the people who, well, you do know ones who purchased them, but how cool is it to kind of see it, when somebody, obviously
invests in that and has it at their location to see it kind of live on after the program's over?
I mean, when Reckless was auctioned, it was a pretty pivotal moment for me. I'd not shared my art publicly before, so just to have something out in front of the community was massive. But then a good friend of mine who had lost her husband overseas was the person who ended up purchasing Sergeant Reckless, so very close to home. Really just an overall incredible experience, which is kind of what gave me the inspiration and the drive and the confidence really to keep creating art and sharing it.
Yeah. You were born and raised in New York State, from what I understand? No?
Born in Maryland, raised in Pennsylvania.
Raised in Pennsylvania,
so,
okay.
Yeah,
And you have a New York connection somewhere in the research
right.
that I did. But
Yeah.
but talk about going back to your childhood. It's almost kismet that, art with equestrian it goes all the way back to when you're a little girl.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. My mom was an equestrian, which I did not know. And then around 5th grade or so, I just got obsessed with horses. As some horse girl families will know, it just happens. And I started looking for books because I'm that generation that was kind of between the internet. It wasn't a thing. You couldn't Google yet. So I just remember going to our bookshelf and there were encyclopedias, but then there were these unbelievable horse books with illustrations and instructions on how to ride and how to do these different things with horses. And I begged my family for lessons. And we found a local gal who was from England, married to a retired Navy diver who had a leather workshop on their farm that they had converted from a dairy barn. So just a little place, but it was absolute magic. And I worked in the hay fields, pulling in hay for the summer in exchange for lessons. And I really just grew up loving the animals, loving the life, but also having an appreciation of the materials that go into the craftsmanship of creating tack like saddles and bridles, chaps and boots. And I was always a creative too. So having both worlds come together now, it really feels like the path that I grew up on, where I had this craftsman, this maker, and also this wonderful equestrian instructor come into my life at a critical time. I'm so blessed.
And then how did you get involved with the military? I know you joined the military at one point. At what crossroads were you at your life at that point where you had a love for horses, obviously art, but then joining the military? How did that blend into your life?
That's maybe not the most inspiring story, but I followed a guy out west of Colorado and found a wonderful trainer. She was a dressage trainer, and I was taking the bus and looking for work and couldn't quite find anything. I was going to school, didn't want loans, and I figured if you can't beat them, join them. So I joined the military out of Fort Carson area in Colorado Springs, and it's been the most unbelievable adventure. It's taken me all over the world, and I've met the most amazing people.
That is a fascinating story. Actually, I used to live in Colorado Springs, Cheyenne Mountain. I lived within almost the shadow of Cheyenne Mountain back in the day. So post-military, what brought you to this area in Southern Pines?
Well, the military brought me here. I was in the airborne community for my entire career after I went through training, and very lucky to finish out at Special Operations. So I've been here for my entire career, a little bit over 10 years. And then just last April, so coming up on 1 year that I've left the military, but really the people that I found here and mostly the people that I worked with in the military made it home. And then I've just been able to grow into this equestrian community that I really didn't know existed. I started out at Fort Bragg in an airborne unit living on base, and it wasn't until I was here for a few years that my circle expanded and I realized that this place is home to unbelievable athletes. I mean, multiple Olympians train out of Southern Pines, North Carolina, and absolute legends like Denny Emerson had their facilities here for years and years, and it's just the level of talent is unbelievable.
And getting involved in the art and equestrian, how do you continue to do that outside of the painted ponies?
I've been so fortunate that in my last year in the military, there's a great program called Skill Bridge where you can work for a company while you're kind of wrapping up your service. And with the art, this company called Equine Network found me, and they're the publishers of magazines that I grew up reading as a little girl, magazines like Practical Horseman and Dressage Today. So they had their 50th anniversary, I think was in 2022 or 2023, and they did this great public art project at the Kentucky Horse Park where they were painting saddles for top riders and then auctioning them to benefit charity again. So this kind of connection where I'm creating something, working with a company and doing some fundraising for different causes. I did one saddle for a wonderful rider, Will Coleman, and shipped it off to them, and it ended up getting lost in the mail.
Oh, no.
So contacted the organizers, or rather they reached out to me and kind of let me know, and they said, we still would love for you to do one. We actually have one that belonged to Boyd Martin, and I didn't know quite at the time. I was still kind of new to the eventing world, but Boyd Martin is one of the top athletes in the world for eventing, and they had this saddle, and it was 2 days before the event. They said, can you do it live? And I said,
Wow.
yeah, I'm in. So they shipped me off and sent the saddle to Kentucky. I ended up doing the drawing and the design at my hotel room and putting base colors on and all that, and then painting it live at the Kentucky 3-day event, which is one of the biggest equestrian events in the world.
That wasn't too intimidating, was it?
I'm
I'm being facetious.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable opportunity.
It was incredible, and I've been so lucky. I think one of the themes of the past year, especially, but over my life, is just good things come to those who are brave. And I really believe that if you just take the leap and kind of go for it, that you will be able to sort out, how to find your way forward. So for the
Fake it till you make it.
fake it till you make
Yeah.
it, and just go for it, take the leap. But yeah, I had just painted live for the first time at Carolina International when that all happened. So
Yeah.
the pieces came into play. I had painted live for my first time. I had just painted a saddle and sorted out the materials and what to use and how the design lays well on that 3D shape. And a few weeks later, got to do it live in front of one of the biggest audiences in equestrian sport. So yeah, really fortunate that I had those things leading up to it, because otherwise I don't know if I could have done it.
Talk about how that works. I mean, versus doing a painted pony where it might take you 2 or 3 months versus you're live and you're probably expected to get this done in like 2 hours, or I don't know what a much more compressed time frame. So how does the concept change? The painting style change? Does weather come into it? Are you in the sunshine shade? I mean, it seems like a totally different thing, and especially having never done it, to have to do that live. Just talk about the concept and the challenges you faced in trying to get that done.
Well, I have to give huge credit to the organizers, because everyone that I've worked with has been so thoughtful about things like the weather and just setup and making sure that I'm able to have things to make it possible to paint outdoors. And Steuben is a saddle maker. That's who I was painting with the last few years and for that first time. So they had this beautiful custom stand that they actually used to display their saddles. They gifted me one. So that helps with the, standing it up so that I can access the saddle.
Yeah.
And then for timeline, it really comes down to preparation. So thinking out ideas and themes ahead of time. And because I've done paintings on 3D objects, it's helpful to have a thought process. And I actually think about it kind of like you would think about tattoo placement, of how can I be enhancing of this shape and this form with an image, and how can I have the image placed so that it's not distorted in a way that takes away from the overall design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dan, I know you're jonesing as a painter by trade from Savannah College of Art and Design. I know you're jonesing to ask Larissa Ann a question about paint. You have no. Wait a minute. You're speechless.
There's no mic.
There's no mic. I can repeat the question,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sure. So, yeah.
and I can hear you.
What was it like having like large quantities of people coming by you? Were they asking you questions? Were you engaging with people, or were you kind of set up on a stage?
And so people, if they didn't hear, it's like, what about people that were walking by when you were doing the live painting? I mean, what's it like? What's it like having a live audience while you're doing that?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be, I was nervous. I was nervous about that, because you don't know if people are going to be kind or not. And part of painting, you really are sharing part of yourself when you're doing that.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just so grateful to everyone who was part of that experience, because it was so positive overall. And I think that the paintings that I've done live truly have been extra special because of the people who have been there and interacted and came by and been supportive. I mean, Boyd Martin came by for, if you haven't gone to Kentucky and you can go to Kentucky, please do, because it's just, the atmosphere is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people, standing in line to get this man's signature just because of the respect for his athleticism and his horsemanship. But his wife actually stopped by and,
Wow.
checked on the
Yeah.
work and the progress. And The Steuben brothers, who, own the company, were, stopping by to check on progress. So I've just been so fortunate to have the support of the community and really the people that I've been working with to do this.
You talked about in your career and in your life how things lead to another thing. And I think we all have things in our lives where one door closes, another door opens. When that has happened to you and with this opportunity with the live painting and meeting all the people that you mentioned, the very influential people in the industry, how has that opened up more doors for you now?
I think the biggest thing is just different opportunities, different ideas. Like I just got back from Wellington, Florida, where I was doing a collaborative painting experience for the first time. So, adding another layer, now it's not just me painting, it's also inviting other people to have a creative experience with me. And that was another thing where I was just not quite sure how it would go. And it, exceeded expectations. I got to work with this beautiful company and invite people to take a moment out of competing, which can be quite high stress and anxiety inducing, and to just give them an opportunity to connect with something that most people haven't done since high school or college. A lot of people don't create art, so it's very much a privilege to facilitate those experiences, and wasn't expecting to enjoy it, but I loved it.
Yeah. Now, aside from the art, I mean, your love of equestrian, love of riding, talk about what you do with riding in this area.
So I've, again, been so lucky. I met my friend Dana Cook because I had my art booth set up at Carolina Horse Park, just selling some prints and originals and that sort of thing. But she's a absolutely beautiful rider and trainer out of Charlotte. And one of her clients had a horse that needed some recovery help from a suspensory tendon injury. So I've got this absolutely wonderful animal that I'm able to ride and enjoy just because of, once again, the art and being in the right place at the right time, and just trying to be good to the people around me. I think there's so much that comes from just being supportive to other people, and I'm very lucky to have people give back to me.
It's interesting because we get a lot of phone calls here for tourism, and I remember when I first got here 7 years ago, there was a video of somebody actually riding a horse. And they're like, where can people do that? And it's like, they can't. Nobody wants to take on liability insurance. I've always wondered, like, what would be that cost? I mean, what is it that exorbitant a cost? And two, we'd love to have an opportunity to allow people to go ride horses, and they come to this area and see the horse farms, and you drive down Young's Road, and I mean, it's like being in Lexington to a certain degree. I mean, with the white split rail fences and the horses, it's just spectacular. If you haven't driven down that road, you need to do it. It's a pretty cool experience. But I think that'd be a big part of the experience here if people could ride. Talk about the equestrian community here. We work a lot with the Weymouth Center and the Blessing and the Hounds and their Weymouth Equestrians program. So we see how much horses do benefit people from a number of different aspects in their life. Talk about the importance of that culture here. And what it means to you to be in this part of North Carolina that is so ingrained in the culture, going back, a couple centuries, not centuries, but a couple hundred years of life in equestrian culture.
Yeah, I will do my very best to do right by the equestrian community here, because it really it runs deep and it's a bit private. As you mentioned, you can't just kind of show up at these horse farms and expect to ride. But I will say that Southern Pines Riding Academy, run by Whitney Weston, is a fantastic place if anyone wants to start taking lessons. She's got beautiful school horses, and she herself is a very experienced professional with instructors who work under her. And she's just outside of the Carolina Horse Park area. So if you're looking for lessons or for a safe horse to kind of get started with, that's where I would go. And I've taken lessons with Whitney and still do, if I need a horse that's safe and quiet and just to kind of work on my athletic abilities. And then the Carolina Horse Park events are absolutely free to attend. So if you're looking to just be around horses and kind of enjoy the atmosphere, they do a wonderful job setting up with coffee and food trucks, and just making it something that people can really enjoy. We have access to competitions that people pay hundreds of dollars for at other venues, and those professionals come here because the Carolina Horse Park is just an absolutely incredible top-tier venue. It's the opening event for really the Olympic level competitions for the United States.
I'll admit it right now. I hadn't been to Carolina Horse Park. Maybe, I think, Dan, we went out there as a team, as a CVB a couple of years ago, and it was absolutely stunning. I mean, it was like going to the Super Bowl. I mean, it was incredible. I never expected that level of just quality and just I was blown away. And I don't know how many acres it was. It's a very large facility. And I forget the young lady's name who toured us around and showed us all. I mean, it was just well thought out, well done, just a top-notch professional. I mean, you think of, like in the western part of the state, the Tryon facility in Polk County is a pretty significant facility there. This one, I think, rivals that in terms of, and you mentioned the international, and to your recommendation, I mean, anybody who's not been out there, if you hear about a competition at a Carolina Horse Park, you need to check it out. It is not in Moore County, but the people that do ride, because Hope County does not have the lodging, they typically stay in Moore County. And that's why we love to support Brian and what he does there with the Painted Ponies. And there's international competition. There's a couple other names that escape me right now, but we support those programs because it means so much to the people that come to this area and from around the world. They were telling us how horses would be shipped internationally and compete here. It's just amazing, the culture. I don't think people understand because we're so golf-centric here, and we're the home of American golf, that we can almost be the home of horse culture or home of equestrian as well, because it is such deep in the culture. I was reading that since 2023, you raised more than $30,000 since 2020 for local organizations. What kind of fulfillment do you get out of that? I mean, you do a lot of painting, but to also benefit organizations and charities like that, what does that mean to you?
I really feel like it's at the heart of my creativity, because to create something from nothing, it takes a lot of energy and thoughtfulness. And to be able to give that as a gift, you have to be at such a position of comfort in your own life. So I really do think that it's a privilege to be able to create. And I think it's part of my responsibility as someone in the community and as someone who is privileged to do that, to be able to share that in a way that gives back to other people who maybe aren't so fortunate.
What are you working on now? What's next?
I am actually on a bit of a break. I had some amazing opportunities this spring, so I'm focusing. I still work full time, but now for that equestrian company that I mentioned with the painted saddles, starting that project. So I do some marketing and I get to be really creative that way as well. So still supporting the equestrian industry, just not necessarily with paintings. And then I'm working towards hopefully having a collection available this fall, kind of around that idea of take the leap, dream big dreams, find your wings. The hat that I'm wearing is actually from a collection I did with our riveter locally, another North Carolina-based business.
Military
exactly.
background, yeah.
Yeah, so just kind of building on that idea and hopefully inspiring some other people to chase their dreams and to really do the things that light them up.
Having been in the military, and we certainly appreciate your service, how much does it inspire you that this community is so military? I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, which is the largest naval installation in the world. So I know all about that. I didn't serve, which was one of my biggest regrets. But what is it to be part of a community where, I think back years ago, people that served at Fort Bragg maybe left and never came back, but now they serve and they stay here. So when you go to Red's Corner, you see families, young families with their children, and Bee Hawk with the haulings, and all the breweries, except for Pinehurst Resort, are all military owned. Our Riveter you mentioned. What does that say about this area when people come from around the world to serve at Fort Bragg?
Well, I'll say that you don't necessarily get to choose where you go in the military, but you're so lucky if you get assigned here.
True.
You really are so fortunate. And I think it says a lot about the people in the Southern Pines and Moore County community that people in the military choose to stay here and flourish here and start businesses and grow families. They really are some of the most high drive, high achieving people. If there's a problem, the people in the military at Fort Bragg, they're the ones who are going to solve it. No questions asked. Like, they're going to be the ones sorting it out, going out the door and getting the job done. So to have them call this place home is truly something special.
We talked about some of your art on the equestrian side, but there are other aspects of art that you're involved with. Talk about some of the other things that you dabble in from the artistic standpoint.
Most of it is equestrian inspired, just because that kind of is where my heart has lived. But I also grew up, in nature. I was part of the ecology club. I've been to Panama and Costa Rica in the rainforest. I was really lucky to travel to Morocco as part of my language immersion training in the military. So travel and nature also kind of inform my work. And I think that's starting to show up more now that I'm maturing as an artist and in my artistic style, is some of the colors and some of the textures and the influence from my travels are also kind of coming together. And then working with companies like Surya and the Moon, who I was just with in Wellington, Florida, who their jewelry is all artisan handmade in India, and just being able to kind of tap into these amazing places from around the world. I feel like I'm starting to expand in a few other directions that way.
Yeah. What other doors are opening for you in this community in Southern Pines?
Well, fingers crossed. I'm going to start competing this lovely horse that I have for a while, and there's some absolutely amazing competition series that people have put together. Our area is unique, not just because of the level of horsemanship, but because of how accessible the community has made it to people who aren't necessarily from tremendous means, because equestrian sport, just like golf, can be very expensive. But Warhorse Event Series is one put on by Equine Associates, a local vet clinic, and they've made it to where it's very supportive, very affordable, and just a really fun environment. So that's kind of on the horizon for me. If I can get the big guy to where his tendon is healed up enough
Right.
that we can start jumping again, that's what we're aiming for.
I know the Weymouth Center does a Horses Benefit Kids program. I don't know if you were there last year on Derby Day,
Cool.
first weekend in May. There were horse jumpers there. The first time they'd done like a mini competition there, and I think people were just fascinated with that culture, being able to see it live, kind of a mini, very scaled down version of what you see at Carolina Horse Park. But I think people do have an appreciation for that, and we certainly wish you the best of luck with your artistic and your equestrian. If people want to, see you paint live or want to take a look at your artwork, talk about where we can see you online and if we can purchase works from Larissa Ann Art.
Oh, thank you. I've tried to make it simple. I'm larissaannart.com and larissaann.com, Larissa Ann Art on social media, and I've been so lucky to have work in a few local places, to include our Riveter as well as Dar Interior Furniture, just next to the ice cream parlor, so that main strip on May Street.
Well, we certainly wish you the best of luck and appreciate you taking time out to be in Paradise in the Pines. We enjoy working with you with the Painted Ponies, and I know you may not be planning on doing that in the near future, but we hope that you'll dive back into the Painted Ponies. We'd love to have you paint another. We'd love to sponsor that artwork again.
Well, thank you so much. It's been my absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you. Larissa Ann Art, Larissa Ann Ray officially is her name. So if you want to learn more about tourism in Moore County, go to our website, which is homeofgolf.com. If you want to watch our videos, go to our YouTube channel, which is Home of American Golf. This has been Paradise in the Pines, and we'll see you next time.